Hi, welcome. It is Monday again. So let's first start by thanking Shroommates, the sponsor for this week's talks. Prize packs for this month's contest have been graciously donated by Hodo Foods, Crafters Organics, Follow Your Heart, Cinnaholic, Orgain, and Shroommates, who is our newest monthly contest sponsor and donor. So I invite my viewers to enter the monthly contest at virtualvegfest.com by clicking on the contest tab for details. Entering is super easy. Just by liking and or subscribing to our social media and Virtual Veg Fest YouTube channel, you're entered to win one of 6 prize packs, and you can enter up to 10 times. And of course, thank you to Plant Based Network for sponsoring Virtual Veg Fest. All right, so here we are, and we're going to talk about protein. If you have even mentioned to someone, anyone, hey, I've heard about this thing, going vegetarian, going vegan, being plant-based, and I'm thinking about it, I guarantee you that the first thing they will ask you, that person will ask you is, well, where do you get your protein? I went veg 20 years ago, almost 20 years ago, be 20 in July. And if I had $1 for every time a person asked me, where do you get your protein? I would have a lot of dollars. Math is not my strong suit. I may even have thousands of dollars just by being the person who got asked that question. And when I posted on my social media today about this topic, my dad texted me and he said, anytime I mention my wife or my daughter are vegan, that's the first question he gets. Through him, people are concerned about the amount of protein my mother and I are getting. And they want to make sure that he knows that we need to know that we need to get more protein. By the way, shout out to my dad. Today is his 70th birthday, and he is so I just wanted to give him a quick hello and a quick happy birthday, Dad. Mwah. So the protein question. Where did that come? Oh, by the way, you'll notice my background is different. We are not Fireside today. It's getting warmer here in New Jersey. It's not super warm today. It's getting warmer here. And so we're going to be up in this room until I can use the fire again as it gets colder later in the year. But that's okay, because no matter what, Fireside or not, the conversation here is always warm, like we're by the fire. So where did this protein question come from? And by the way, if here, let's start there. If you have been asked, where do you get your protein? Just type a yes in the chat. So where did this question come from? The question, like, why do we, why is that the first thing that people are worried about? It's like, you can eat junk food with your friends or your family, like load up on all the things that are considered unhealthy. Yes, there's Renee. Oh boy, yeah. Like every time you meet a new person and you tell them, right? Oh, I don't eat meat, or I'm vegan. Like, oh, where's your protein? So this question's like, you can, like I was saying, you can eat all the junk food, and it doesn't matter how low quality the food is that you are eating. No one bats an eye. And if you're following like standard American diet type stuff, the minute you are like, okay, I'm vegan, everyone around you is like nutrition expert, right? Even though they are eating that same sad diet that you were just, chowing on before you made the decision to go vegan. Now all of a sudden they're concerned about your health. Well, where were you concerned about my health when I was eating, cheeseburgers and all things loaded with cholesterol and fat and, animal protein that our bodies have trouble processing. And so, like, why weren't they concerned about that then? So I found a great reference, and I'm actually going to put it in the chat. if you guys are familiar with Dr. Michael Greger, Nutrition Facts is his website. And he is really great because he advocates for, a plant-based diet, a vegan diet, but he and his team, they do so much research. They really get in there and they look at everything. And he went like all the way back to, I think he mentions like the early 1900s. And the video is not that long. I think it's only like 5 minutes, but the great protein fiasco, he calls it. And what it said was that you're not able to get like the protein that you need when you are eating plants, and that you needed to like combine, and that there was this thing called kwashiorkor. I think that's how you say it, which is a protein deficiency, and that they were seeing that in people who lived in underserved communities and in pure like real poverty, people who are starving, so they're not getting any nutrients. They were deficient in so many things, but for some reason it was like protein, because, and he mentions this in the video, you go ahead and watch it. He mentions that, at this time, like the dairy industry had all of this like powdered milk from World War I, and they had nothing to do with it. So they were either going to, I guess, trash it. And then they were like, oh, well, we can give this to those countries that need supplementation, need more food or whatever. And that was a way to get rid of the dairy. So there's, then as we move on years down the road, there was a book called Diet for a New America, I think it was, where she said you have to combine. And then, in order to get a complete protein, you had to have, say, rice and beans in the same meal. And then she spent the rest of her career debunking her own stuff because it wasn't true. Because when you look at animal proteins, right? What do they have? They have they have cholesterol, right? Plants don't have cholesterol. They have protein, they have a lot of fat, but they don't have any fiber. So like the first thing I want to say when people say to me, where do you get your protein? I always want to say, well, where do you get your fiber? Are you worried about your fiber? Um, because they're not getting fiber if you're eating animal products multiple times a day. And that's the base of your meal. Like humans need fiber. Our digestive system needs something to move stuff out. And if you look at the time it takes to break down certain animal products versus plant products, like if you're eating just plant meals, then your body processes that really well and gets it out. I mean, you ask any vegan, like they go number two quite a bit, multiple times a day. Just saying. But like beef takes days to break down in your colon. So whatever animal products you ate on Monday, like you're not getting rid of that from your body until like Thursday. What's going on in there? It's just sitting and kind of like putrefying and so that doesn't sound great, right? But then Dr. Greger also mentioned, and I thought that this was really interesting. When you think about the perfect food for humans, let's talk babies. The perfect food for humans is breast milk, right? When we look at, let's say, lions out, in the wild, when they have cubs, no one questions when the cubs are nursing on their mama. I wonder if that milk, that lion milk, has enough nutrients for those lion cubs to grow up and be strong and live out here in the wild. Have you ever questioned that? I've never questioned that. So why do we look at human milk? Same concept, right? The lion milk is made for lion cubs to be nourished and to grow into lions. And then, and they only nurse for a certain period of time, right? Like, lion cubs are not nursing all the way until they're grown-ups. So that's another thing. But and human babies, same thing. They nurse for a certain period of time, and then they don't nurse anymore. So the perfect food based on nutrients would be breast milk. So I'm not talking about, we're not talking about breastfeeding as a whole, like the women who can't or who struggle, like that's not what we're talking about. We're just talking about the nutrient part of it. And so it's the perfect combination of things for human babies to make human babies grow at the rate they're supposed to grow. So when you look at the content of protein, it is lower than, say, cow's milk. But why is that? Because a baby calf is expected to double his weight in a very short period of time. So there needs to be a lot of calories, a lot of fat. There's got to be protein. There has to be all of those building blocks to turn a baby calf into, young cow, into the, 1,000+ pound grown up that he or she is going to be. So why would we compare human breast milk to cow's milk protein wise? It doesn't make sense because we don't have the same requirements. And again, there's no fiber. So we want to make sure, because our intestines are so long, like you compare us to, let's say, like a cat. Cats are obligate carnivores. So they do eat animals. It's a requirement. That's just how it is for cats. So cats eat, and their digestive system is like this long. Let's say, you'll just for demonstration here. Let's say a cat's intestine is like this long. So they eat and they go. If any of you live with cats, you'll know that pretty short after they've eaten, they're in the litter box. But humans, our intestines are like this, and they're like feet long. I don't know how long they are, but they're super long, and they're all like woven and stuff. So they're stacked on top, and so stuff has to move. But how does stuff move if you're not getting the fiber and the water that you need in order to push everything out? And so we need to make sure that what we're eating, we don't need to worry about the protein, because first of all, the protein requirements that are out there are way too much. And they've determined, doctors and scientists alike have determined, that we are eating, I don't know, probably on average, even the recommendation I think is 20 something more grams of protein that you need. So here's a link. I'm going to put it in the chat. I hope you check that out too, from PCRM. And they even have a little calculator within that link where you can figure out, based on your weight, how much protein you need. And then you can go from there. For me, I don't worry about this. Am I getting this much protein or that much fat or this many calories? And it's not because I don't care. It's because if you are eating a balanced diet, a varied diet, where you're having your grains and your veggies and your beans, and you're eating enough food, then you are getting all of the requirements that you need. You're meeting the protein requirements and your fat requirements and all of those things that that you need. I just want to pull up another. And then I have with me, so I have a couple of books, but this is one that I'm looking at now. It's a 7-Day Rescue, and there's a whole chapter on why we limit protein. And they talk about, the amount of protein, like even mushrooms. People think that mushrooms don't have protein. They have 57% of their calories is from protein. And I would also say that if you want to read a whole book about protein and our obsession with it, then you'll want to check out Dr. Garth Davis, who has an entire book It's called Proteinaholic, and I thought I had that link here, but I don't. Um, you want to check that out too, and that will give you, if you're really concerned about protein, eh, reading that book, checking out these links, like I think that will help quell that, and it will help you be able to tell people like when they're like, well, where do you get your protein? And I mean, the short answer is I get protein from the same places you do, from food, from plants, from the same places the animals do, from the plants that they're eating. And it's just like, so I think I said at the beginning, right? And like sometimes when I'm feeling a bit snarky, I want to just ask them about their fiber. But when someone comes to me and they legitimately, and look, it's not always legitimate. So let's go there for a second. Sometimes people ask you where to get your protein because they are feeling defensive about your choice to be vegan. And it starts to make them question or consider what they are eating and how they're contributing to um, some of the negative things in the world. And so they that's like the first thing, they're like on the defense. They're like, oh yeah, but you're not getting enough protein, so you're going to be sick and you can't live this way forever. But it's completely not true. um yeah, Renee, that's right. So Renee is saying maybe they could be defensive, maybe they're being ignorant too. And yes, so you have to make a decision, right? Like, are you in a situation to start to educate this person? Do you think they want to hear it? Um, and there's so many different like charts you can find online that will say, like, broccoli has 11 grams of protein per 100 calories, and steak has 20 grams of protein per 100 calories. I think the broccoli part is right. The steak, I might be off by a couple of grams. But again, 100 calories of steak is like small. 100 calories of broccoli is like a huge bowl. And so you're not going to be full off that tiny square of animal protein, right? You're just not. And if you eat a bowl of broccoli, you're also, again, getting the fiber. Why is fiber important outside of pushing things out of your digestive system? Fiber is important because it makes you feel full. It makes you feel satisfied. And so when you look at like the human stomach, if you are consuming plants, like you can get like you can fill your stomach with plants for like, I don't know, a couple hundred calories. When you're like, if you just like down some oil, it would be like this much of your stomach would be full, and it would be like 1,000 calories. Um, so you want to look at the big picture. And sometimes when people ask you where do you get your protein, you'll be able to kind of show them this. The big picture is that I can get a complete nutrient panel of food as long as I'm varying my diet and eating. And this is true for people who eat the sad diet as well. Just because people eat animal products doesn't mean that they're getting all the nutrients and they're healthy the way that they could be. So that's a whole other thing, I guess. But the protein is, we want to consider, like, are we nourishing ourselves completely? And this much food, but 20 grams of protein in that much food versus this much food and 11 grams of protein plus fiber and vitamins. And I mean, do you guys know about broccoli? While you're on nutritionfacts.org, just search broccoli. Broccoli is cancer fighting. It's amazing. It has so many phytonutrients, and it's just like, it's doing your insides so much good. And it's got the fiber and it's got some protein. But I guess if you're feeling like super concerned and you're like, I just don't know, and I have to make sure that I'm eating enough. My suggestion is to download the Dr. Greger, what's it called? Daily Dozen app. And that app is just and I'm just going to quickly see if it's here on my phone. Yep, there it is. So what this does is it just has you, I hope you can see that there. Yeah, I hope you can make that out okay. But what you can do is you just check off how many, if he tells you how many servings of things you should have each day to kind of complete that full profile of nutrients and vitamins and minerals and all that good stuff. And so you just like, I had 3 fruits today. So then you just check off 3, and you want to try to get all 24. It gives you 24 things to have, which also includes exercise and drinking water, or green tea. He likes green tea as well. Why I would recommend something like this if you're concerned over an app where you're actually getting the amount of protein, the amount of calories, is that, and this is my suggestion, this is my personal thought on this. I am not a nutritionist, I'm not a doctor. So this is just me. The reason why I don't use apps that show your macros and your micros, um, calories, fat, and protein is simply because I find that it can lead to a lot of disordered eating, and it can make people obsessed with what they're consuming. And a vegan lifestyle is not just about the food, but it's also about just how beautiful it is, and the love and the joy that we put into the world by living this way. So for me, becoming obsessed with what I'm consuming in at that granular level just is not a healthy thing. And so I don't want any part of that. But you know yourself better than I know you, right? And I know myself better. So that's my suggestion. The Daily Dozen app gives you a really great guide on how to make sure that you're getting everything to keep you healthy and nourished and satisfied. And that's the other thing too. Like when you're eating all these plants, you can eat so much food. And so you're really full and you're really satisfied. And again, I mentioned it last week, but if you're having bowls and stuff, throw some mango in there, especially if it's like rice, beans, veggies. Oh my God, so good. Top it with some hot sauce. And I'll try not to talk about mango in your bowls next week, but no promises. I really can't promise that. And I don't know that I'd want to. So, does anybody have any questions? Any questions at all? You can ask me about this, you can ask me about, the protein topic, or you can ask me about something else. But my suggestion, I guess, to kind of while you're thinking, if you have any questions, what I would say is when someone says, "Where do you get your protein?" You can just say that I get it from the food that I eat. What I'm eating is, completely within all of my nutritional requirements. And look, it depends on who you're talking to. If it's someone that you want to get into it with, then you can kind of show them. Like I said, you can Google. There's a bunch of charts that actually compare meat, animal-based protein versus plant protein, and talk about the fiber. Talk about how important it is, and all of the other nutrients and stuff that vegetables, fruit, grains, beans, that they all have, that is missing in animal products. If you are on, I know that there are some people, and Doug Lyle, which, by the way, that was another link that I wanted to share. So Doug Lyle has 2 things that I want to recommend. And so this is a link to YouTube that I'm going to just put in the chat, called The Pleasure Trap, which he also has a book, and it's amazing. But he also has a thing called Getting Along Without Going Along. You can find the video. I think he might have a small book about that too. And what he suggests a lot of the time is, whether people are asking you where to get your protein, or are you sure that's a safe diet? Are you sure you're going to be healthy? His response, when if you're comfortable with this, whether it's true or not for you, if you're comfortable with saying, like, my doctor said I should give this a try, and so far it's working for me. And then that kind of can shut people down, because so often that's where they go. Someone will say, well, shouldn't you check with your doctor? Like, what if this isn't healthy for you? I'm concerned for your health that you're eating this way. And then you could say, well, my doctor has me on this. And like I said, whether or not that's actually true for you and how you feel about saying that, if it's not, then that's up to you. But it is an easy and quick way out of that. If depending on the relationship, if you want to be like, yeah, well, why don't we talk about your fiber first and then we can talk about where I get my protein? If if that's the way you want to engage, maybe that is the most effective way for the person who's asked you. So, we always want answers to this stuff, especially because we know that they are hoping that they're tripping us up. But so much of the nuance of being vegan, so much of that is that we want, for me, I want more vegans in the world. So, how do I think that should be approached? I think that I should be kind, and I think that I should be open, and I think that I should share as much information as the person is willing and wants to hear. And so, I'm probably not going to get snarky, at least not right away. um, Renee, great. Renee is an ethical vegan, and you're welcome. I am too, for sure. That's my that is that's my jam. That's my wheelhouse. I love it. It's the best thing that I've ever done, the best decision I've ever made, whether I'm eating vegan junk food or I'm, making beautiful, nourishing, gorgeous plates of veggies, greens, and beans. It doesn't matter. I still feel good inside because I truly believe that this is the most beautiful and joyous way to live. So, thank you all for being here on a Monday evening. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate the engagement. And I hope that this was helpful and gives you, if not at least a starting point, to look at and to start learning about maybe how to interact with people when they ask you the age old question. And look, you're going to hit a point where someone is going to ask you this question, and whether you mean to or not, you're going to roll your eyes because it's like, okay, like how many more times do I need to be asked this question? But it's probably the first time that person has asked you the question. So it's important to remember that. But anyway, I hope that this was helpful. You can find me, I'm here every Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern with a new topic, but it doesn't matter what my topic is. You are always welcome to share any vegan questions, vegan lifestyle questions that you have, and I will do my best to answer every one of them. You can find me, my podcast is called Did You Bring the Hummus? You can find it on any of the major podcast apps. You can also find me on Instagram and Facebook under the same under the same name, under Did You Bring the Hummus? Oh, Renee, you're killing me tonight. Oh, it's so wonderful. Thank you for joining. So yeah, you can find me at Did You Bring the Hummus on Facebook and Instagram. It's also the name of the podcast. So if you have any suggestions of topics that you'd like covered, you can submit those through any of the social media I just mentioned, as well as the virtual VegFest Talks website. There's a link right on the page for Fireside Chats with Kimberly to send a message. So please go ahead and do that. Let me know what you need. I'm here for you. Thanks again for joining me. I'm so thankful for every one of you. Have a wonderful Monday evening and a great week ahead. Bye.